question, you can either raise your hand, you can with a little emoji that pops up and wait to be called on, or you can drop it in the chat and one of the moderators will see your question and we'll try to get that answered, okay? Also, starting off today, we are going to kick off with some introductions. We have our chair of the mentoring program here. We also have a facilitator and some speakers for tonight. So I do just want to go ahead and kick off with introducing myself. My name is Morgan Colvin. I am the Student Programs Coordinator. I know you probably have seen a number of emails and messaging and communication from me. So it is so nice to see a lot of your names, and a lot of you have been going to a lot of our events, so we appreciate it. I did want to go ahead and continue our introductions by kicking it over to our chair of the mentoring program, so he can quickly introduce himself as well.
Thank you, Morgan. Hello, everyone. This is fantastic. My name is Paul Movembi. I'm an associate actuary at Prudential, and I'm the chair of the mentoring committee. And with that, I will hand over to Monique.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Monique Hacker. I am an actuary at New York Life Insurance Company. I live in Tampa, Florida, and I am on the board of directors for IABA, and I will be the facilitator for today's conversation. I am going to ask Adrian and Daje just to briefly introduce themselves and give us a little bit about their backgrounds. So we'll start with Adrian.
Sure. So firstly, thanks for having me here for this fireside chat. So my name is Adrian Paris. I'm a vice president at MetLife. I'm responsible for the modeling within the US, the actual modeling within the US business. So I'm originally from Barbados. I've been there for the first 24 years of my life before going off to do my master's in Scotland. And I did my master's in actuarial science. And then I pursued a career in actuarial in London. And I was there for the past 18 years. And now I'm in New York, still with MetLife. And I'm happy to be here as the mentor for today's fireside chat.
Hi, everybody. I'm Daje. Less illustrious of a background. I'm an actuarial student, currently at Georgia State University, finishing up my last semester. Yeah, I passed a few exams. I'm a former mentee, and I'm really excited to be starting my career with MetLife this summer. So I've learned some things over the last couple of years, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to share it with you all.
Great. Thank you both. So I noticed there are only 5 of us on camera. So if you're now 6, if you're able to, it'll be nice to see some faces. So feel free to join. We won't judge if you're, it's a casual, fun, interactive conversation. So if you're comfortable, please turn on your camera. Hi, Patrick. We'll have it's easier to have the conversation if we can see your face. And I don't do camera, so I completely understand, but maybe for this one time, just join us with your beautiful faces. All right, so we're gonna kick into this conversation. So one of the things we wanted to mention is that feel free to jump in with questions. The goal is for us to just have a good understanding of the mentoring program. If you're not a mentor or mentee, now is a great opportunity to ask some questions to understand more about what IABA has to offer regarding the mentoring program. We have 2 experts here that will dig into their background some and hear about their own experiences. So be sure to ask questions as we continue the conversation. Hi, Isaac. So I'm gonna just say, I don't know why there's background. I'm gonna say hi to whoever joins on video or bye. All right, so we're gonna jump in now and we're gonna have some questions here for Adrian and Daje. And so I wanna kick it off by asking the first question to Adrian. You talked a little bit about your background, about your path so far. So tell me a little bit more, tell the audience a little bit more about your career path over the years, dive a little bit deeper, and what were some of your goals as you journeyed along that path?
Yeah, sure. So look, I guess like some of you, I grew up, basically I grew up in Barbados, and I knew to pursue my career, needed to go outside of my country. So basically, when I left Barbados, I left Barbados on a mission. So after my undergraduate, after my master's, getting into the profession, it was a bit of a challenge. And I'm sure a few of you can relate to this. Like we've been told, and I don't know if this is a generational thing, but we've been told when growing up that we always need to fight. We need to work much harder than the rest of our peers in the workplace. And unfortunately, I didn't have that kind of mentorship that some of you could benefit from with this program. And as a result, I went down a path that's very, I would say, unique. So I'm actually not a qualified actuary, but I've worked for my entire kind of 18-year career period in natural function. I've had a number of jobs with big international companies, whether it was in life insurance, health insurance, pensions. I worked in reinsurance pricing, but with all of them, I've been fortunate enough to have experience in big kind of transformation projects, whether it was transformation on financial reporting, whether it was looking at improving management information for decision making, whether it was supporting regulatory change. And I would say those opportunities actually gave me, I guess, unique chances with the companies I worked with, where I was able to do a series of secondments. So a lot of my experience has been pretty global in nature. So I've done secondments in Buenos Aires, in Stockholm, in Paris, in Dublin. So I guess that diverse kind of experience kind of positioned me quite strongly in terms of it helped differentiate me from the others, and therefore thankfully it differentiated me enough that allowed me to have a very strong actuarial career. So basically now where I am within my career path is kind of like you, thinking what are the next steps. And in doing that, I am actually looking for a sponsor, for a mentor to help me navigate what are the next paths in for my career. So I would say that's where I am at the moment, looking to see how I can leverage all of my experience in actuarial into other parts of the insurance business within MetLife.
That's great. So even as a mentor, you're yourself looking for a mentor.
You never stop learning, Monique. You know that.
Yep. All right. Well, great. Thanks, Adrian. Daje, same question for you. I know you're earlier in your career and your journey to being full-fledged actuary. So talk to us a little bit about your own personal goals.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's best if I talk about how I got started. And it's interesting. Like when I finished my undergrad, I think I graduated around 2020. I was thinking about different opportunities that were available to me, and I was talking to some of my friends, and one of them floated the actuarial profession. That was the first time I heard anybody say the word actuary. And I'm sure a lot of us have similar stories who come from, more of a diverse background. And when I learned about it, I just dug deeper and deeper. And the more I learned, the more I wanted to learn. I thought it was a fascinating profession. I thought the problems you got to solve were very, very interesting. And I was asking anybody and everyone who was willing to listen, how do you get into this profession? How do you do this kind of work? And the answer I always got was you have to first pass that pass exam P. And it took me a while, got to that point, but that really was just a foot in the door. But I still had more to learn. I still had to figure things out. I still had to figure out what, like where the entry level jobs were. I was in Florida. There weren't as many opportunities there. So luckily, I had an alumni who was a pretty esteemed actuary. I didn't realize until I was actually studying the profession. His name was Stuart Klugman. Apparently, he wrote some books and things like that. I was like, wow. I was lucky to get some advice from him. And he suggested the IABA. He suggested the mentorship program. I was lucky enough to get some really good advice and really good opportunities from really good actuaries, and it really boosted my confidence, and it allowed me to really think that I could get like to pass more exams and to progress, and that I was a good fit for this profession. 2 years later, I'm not looking back. I'm really happy about my decision.
That's great. Getting guidance from Stuart Klugman, that's pretty impressive. So I would take that. All right, well, thank you both for that information. I have another question for you guys. So I'll start with Daje this time. So we often heard the term mentor and mentee being thrown around, some other terms related to mentoring. Like what are some preconceived notions that you had, Daje, in regards to being a mentee?
Yeah, I think the biggest preconceived notion I had was that I had to be polished already. I remember how nerve-wracking scheduling that first meeting was for me. Just thinking, oh my gosh, like this person is an actuary at Prudential. Like I have to make sure like all my ducks in a row. I only just had one exam under the belt at the time. I just, I was reading all types of books and articles and things, but I definitely over-prepared. I think when we actually met, my mentor was actually really laid back. He was doing everything in his power to make sure that I was comfortable and really just to give me everything that I needed to make me feel like I could be successful. Yeah, so I guess the biggest notion was that I had to be polished already. You really don't,
Yeah, that's absolutely right. What about you, Adrian? What were some preconceived notions about being a mentor?
Yeah, no, I have two main points here. Like, firstly, and this is something that new managers like tend to fall foul of very often, where you come into it thinking you need to have all the answers. Like, here's someone junior in their career. In theory, I have loads of experience. I need to be able to answer every question. I need to point them in every direction. I am not equipped enough. And the reality is that that's not necessarily the case. And also sometimes we don't necessarily realize the value of our experiences until you kind of like remove those shackles of feeling constrained to probably not knowing. Your experience as you get into those comfortable conversations, as Daje pointed out, it's interesting how much you can actually help another person, because as a mentor, you don't necessarily know what the other person is looking for. The other thing is the fact that it's time consuming. Like, some people think, you know what, I already have a day job. Actually dedicating time to participating in a mentorship program, I don't have that time. I'm busy. And the reality is that, look, you can put in as much time as you have. There is a commitment, because obviously we want to show up, but at the same time, because you're not necessarily having to come in with all the answers, there's so much in your inherent experience that you can add value to a mentee, then there isn't that prep work. As Daje mentioned, like, once you have that rapport with your mentor and mentee, then it becomes just another 30-minute conversation in the calendar, and it's not as daunting in terms of time suck as people initially think.
Yeah, that's true. So for those of you that have joined us over the last few minutes, we're having a conversation with Adrian and Daje about mentoring, and we encourage you to put your videos on if you're able to, as well as feel free to jump in and ask questions. If anything you have top of mind and you want additional information on, just raise your hand using the emoji or put it in the chat and we'll address your questions. All right, so I want to ask Adrian, why did you decide to become a mentor?
Yeah.
What was the driving force behind that?
Yeah, no, it goes back. It goes back to kind of like the fact that as I say, my career path is unique in the sense that I've done well within actuarial without having an actuarial qualification. And as I say, going back to that whole point about you needing to work twice as hard, that stuck in my mind. And I told myself as a student, you know what? I don't need the exams. I'm just gonna push through this. Now, with hindsight, if I had a mentor at that time to help me think through my thoughts and my preconceptions, then I may have made different decisions. Now, so I would say, looking back, like although I've managed to do it, I am not canvassing to the students out here to not do their exams, because the exams are really important. And the exams is part of the process of becoming an actuary. And it's a case where you should put that forward. And if, like, even going through my experience, I can impart like that, as well as some of the other experience that not everyone has the opportunity to have. If I can share that with someone and make their career journey a little easier, or at least let people be a bit more informed, then that's something that's rewarding to me.
Yeah, that's great. Daje, what about you? Why did you decide to become a mentee?
I was seeking advice. I knew what I didn't know, which was a lot with this profession. There's only so much you can learn from Reddit threads or Googling or watching YouTube videos and things like that. I knew that I needed some support, and what I didn't realize was I also needed somebody to be my cheerleader. And yeah, becoming a mentee, once I saw that opportunity to step out my comfort zone a little bit, express my vulnerabilities about whether or not, I felt like I could make it in the profession, I realized that, it was exactly what I needed. I still remember just starting out that summer of 2021, just right after passing that first exam and thinking, like, now what? I expected the jobs to roll in, and it just didn't happen that way. And being able to sit down, have that conversation, and really get a plan together with somebody who's done it, who's been there, who knows exactly what I was going through, and telling me, like, yeah, you can do this. You're doing the right things. Just trust the process. Made everything so much easier. So yeah, really appreciated that decision.
Yeah, it starts with that first step. And speaking of taking the first step, like there's this tool called Cronus, which it's supposed to be, the way to help with the interaction and setting up meetings and being able to foster that relationship with your mentor, with your mentee. Daje, tell us about your experience. Like when you decided that you wanted to be a mentee and you're going to sign up to request a mentor. Tell us about your experience with going through Cronus, and then we'll talk a little bit about the time commitment.
Yeah, of course. Cronus, signing up through Cronus was a pretty seamless process. I just entered some information about myself, some things about my background, and some of my goals as a mentee. And after a little bit, some potential mentors started popping up on my screen, and I remember seeing the first person that was seemed like a good fit for me, and I reached out, and from there, we were able to, the Cronus platform made things really, the process of going ahead and scheduling that first meeting pretty simple. We were able to, I know there's an online platform that allows us to see each other, which was very useful during that COVID period. There were different tools that were allowed us to set up some different goals and take notes about what things that we talked about during our meetings. There were different articles in there that allowed us to, or that allowed me to better prepare for our meetings, like how to appropriately goal set and how to follow up appropriately, how to make the most of the time of my mentor and things like that. I felt like that guidance was super helpful. And it was very nice to have all that in the exact all in one space with Cronus. It's not like Zoom where it's like, you know, the chat will be cleared and things like that. So I felt that Cronus is a very well put together platform that allowed things to be kept very organized, which I thought was very useful for me as a mentor just starting out, or mentee, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Typically, one of the challenges that mentees have, apart from being kind of, apprehensive to meeting with someone new, especially a mentor, is coming up with topics to discuss. So the fact that Cronus and the mentoring committee, made available documents and articles that you guys can refer to is awesome. Not that you're limited to those articles, obviously, but it's a good resource to have. And so for you, Adrian, why did you decide to sign up to be a mentor and sign up for a mentee? And how was your experience on Cronus?
So, like I said, it was a case where I knew I wanted to be a mentor. I can't remember if I mentioned, but in the summer of last year, I moved to New York from London. So I'm trying to find ways that I can support. MetLife has had a long-standing relationship with the IABA. So obviously playing a role within the IABA was like an obvious way to go. So there's the mentorship program. To your point about signing, and actually I'm going to mirror a lot of points that Daje said, because look, even though we're much older, we have loads of experience, the insecurities that you have as a mentee, sometimes mentors have those insecurities. They don't know how to approach the conversation, like how to structure the mentorship arrangement. And I found that Cronus provided so much structure that it made it it reduced the barriers of entry. It made it an easier engagement for you to jump head first into. So kind of like what Daje said, I shared my experience, the type of mentor that I want to be, the areas that I want to provide support. It matched us up. There's a nice kind of like schedule plan with milestones, with prompts, and we have the nice support from people like Morgan and Paul, where they've pointed me to a lot of resources that's out there. And one thing that I quite liked about the platform and the program that the IABA has is this, the mentorship agreement document. And Morgan, you could probably correct me, but that's where it's kind of like a handshake between mentor and mentee. And I think that it does establish a level of commitment. And so all in all, I would say the platform as well as the support from the IABA staffers has been wonderful.
It's good to hear. I'm gonna stop. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm gonna take a pause here and see if anyone has any questions for either Adrian or Daje. Feel free to ask now. I'll pause for about a few seconds here. Don't be shy.
Please do not be shy. We are holding this for you all so that you can ask your questions, talk to the mentor, talk to the mentee. Don't be shy. That's what we're here for.
All right. So I have a question.
Yep, Isaac.
All right. So is a mentor going to help you in terms of teaching you one or two if you have a question regarding the exam?
So I could tackle that. I think it's a good one. I think it depends on what's the agreement in terms of what it is, what are your objectives of that mentorship agreement, and what the mentor is committed, the support that the mentor is committed to providing. So like for instance, me signing up, I did not suggest that I provide support on answering questions with exams. for the obvious reason. And then the second reason is the fact that I'm not familiar with the SOA structure. So in terms of the areas where I can act as a mentor, I did not sign up for that, but some mentors may. So it all depends on one, I guess, what you're looking for. And I'm sure the pairing, the matching system works well. So it kind of like lines you up with a mentor who is willing to provide that kind of advice. But then secondly, the mentorship agreement that you kind of like settle on with your mentor, that's where you're going to say what you want to get out of it. And if the mentor is in agreement to providing that level of support, then I see no reason why not. I don't know if Morgan or Monique or Paul, you have anything more that you want to add there?
Yeah. So Cronus is the site where we can find, yes, you can go to iaba.cronus.com to get signed up today, fill out your profile and start looking for a mentor. So the way that we have structured this now is that you can either look through our directory of mentors, or you can be paired by an admin. So you can reach out to me. I usually send out messaging every week to find out if anybody is looking for a mentor and they need admin match. So we can either do that for you, or you, like I said, go through the directory of mentors that we have so that you can find out or see, what mentor may work for you. We might, do some matching and some pairing based on what the mentor can provide and what you're looking for. But I think it's very important for the mentee to look through what we have and see what do you think would be a great fit for you. So those are the two options you can do once you are signed up on iaba.cronus.com. And yeah, I wish I had something like this when I was doing my mentoring, because it helps with the pairing and finding the right mentor. We did have a couple of questions in the chat. So it said, question for Daje. Did you ever experience any pressure of not being enough or doing enough? Did you ever feel like you let your mentor down or wasted their time? How did you and your mentor handle that?
Yeah, I understand how you feel with this question. Fortunately, my mentor was very, very kind, as everybody I've met at the IABA has been, in that even though I may have felt that about myself, where there would be moments where it's like, oh, I said I would study this many hours and I didn't, or I felt like I should have scored like this high on certain practice exams or didn't. My mentor never made me feel bad about it. He would gently, give me some guidance, right? Give me some advice and tell me about, really, he was always about putting the battery in my back. Because I think the way I came to him, though I was very, very focused on making sure that I could succeed academically, I know I was having trouble like presenting myself well. I don't know. It's just I felt like I was going at it alone a lot. And the entire time, he was always in my corner. He was always cheerleading for me. And I'm sure, with my experience with Adrian, he's always happy, like happy-go-lucky. I'm sure he'd be the same way for his mentee. And I'm sure that'd be the case for anybody who's a mentor in the mentorship program. So personally, I haven't felt, my mentor never allowed me to make him feel like I was wasting his time or anything like that. He would be stern if there would be moments where, I felt like I needed to tighten up. Maybe I didn't dress up for a meeting or something like that. But it would never be to the point where he would be talking down to me or making me feel like that I wasted his time.
Thank you for that, Daje. Yeah, that's very important. And it's also to realize we are a lot harder on ourselves than we realize. So I definitely just don't be so hard on yourself. These people are eager. I've been meeting actuaries nonstop, and they are so eager to meet with aspiring actuaries and talking with them and young people. So it's definitely something that they're looking for. So don't be so hard on yourself. Doris, I do see your question. Reach out to me so then I can look on the platform to see how I can help you in your situation. Because then I'll just probably pair you with another mentor. But we'll talk about it.
Yeah, and in general, Doris, yes, I would say as many mentors as you can have, you should, as many mentors as you can find, you should definitely, I'm not sure if it needs to be through a formal program like this. You can informally, if you have people at work that you look up to, you can reach out to them. That they typically, a lot of actuaries want to help others. So you can typically just reach out to someone or someone in IABA. But yes, you can't have too many mentors. I've had several mentors at the same time. They fulfill different needs. All right, so moving on. All right, let's talk about, so we talked about the mentoring relationship, and it does take some fostering and some time commitment. So, and I know Adrian mentioned earlier about, it does require some work. So how much time do you, Adrian, spend interacting with your mentee? Like, what's the cadence of your meetings, and how long are each of those meetings?
Yeah, right now with my current mentee, I recommend at least once every 2 weeks. That's what I recommend. Because we initially got paired, I think, in January. So given that the engagement is new, we want to build our rapport. So once every 2 weeks. But with that being said, it's really with the mentee and what fits their schedule, and if they're not ready, then kind of like to Daja's point, like not hold that against them. But that's what I suggest to them, at least in the initial stages. That could be reduced after the rapport is built.
And how long are those meetings? Once every 2 weeks?
Oh, those meetings are, I would say, approximately 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay, interesting. What about you, Daje? Like, how much time do you guys spend? How much time do you spend with your mentor, and what's the cadence, and how long are your meetings?
Well, we don't meet as much anymore because, it was a while ago, but back then, it was about the same as what Adrian was saying, about once every 2 weeks. Our meetings were about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how much time you would commit, because honestly, I was really grateful that he would take the time out, because he would almost come straight from work. We meet at like 6:30 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's everything Adrian said, meet bi-weekly, about 30 minutes to an hour, talk about stuff and get his advice.
Now, are you guys meeting virtually, or are you meeting in person when you have your meetings?
At that time, it was virtually. It seemed like that was the only option because it was the middle of 2021. But I wonder if that was something that he'd be willing to entertain in the future. I'm not sure. One thing I would say though, like when we were meeting, we met for about 2 months, for a 2-month span. And I'm not sure if that's how long partnerships last now. I'm aware that, there's some variation in how long these partnerships are. But I do know that by the end of the period.
Is that just me, or is Daje frozen?
Daja is frozen.
Daje is frozen. All right, let's
mentees to do the
there
same.
you go. We missed half of what you said,
Oh.
Daje, but continue. Froze.
Okay. Essentially, I know we were connected for about 2 months, but we had but he expressed interest in changing numbers and keeping that connection going. And since I'll be moving to the New England area pretty soon, I expect to be, contacting a little bit more. So yeah, I would encourage, future mentees to do the same, just because your partnership through the Cronus platform ends or is scheduled to end doesn't mean your partnership with your mentor has to end.
Yeah, I've had a mentor, same one through IABA for over 13 years. So, and he's retired and he's still my mentor. So that keeps going. It depends on your own relationships and what you're getting out of it. So it's all personal. So Adrian, what about you? Do you meet your mentee in person or is it all virtual?
Well, these days we live in a very virtual world, so it's all virtual at the moment. However, I would say what would be good with an in-person engagement is that it helps you build up the rapport a lot quicker. But for the moment, it's all virtual.
Okay. And are they local to you guys? I know Daje said he's moving to the New England area, which it sounds like you'll be local. Adrian, is your person local?
No, I think with the IABA, I think someone is on the West Coast.
Okay.
The other gentleman, I'm not sure where, and internally within MetLife, I think Dublin.
Oh, okay. I would say, just a plug for the annual meeting, encourage your mentor and mentee to come to the meeting and you guys can meet face to face there. That's always a good time to connect. All right. So when you do meet with your mentee and mentor, Adrian, what do you talk to your mentee about? Like, what are some of the topics that you guys have discussed?
So one of my mentees, like one of the things they're trying to focus on is how do they do well in terms of finding their first actuarial opportunity. So we've been talking about things like CV, what do companies look for, what are the different type of actuarial roles that I've seen, and also he's been very interested in terms of the different roles that I've had. So I would say that's where a lot of the conversation have been to date, and byproduct of that is as you say, it's like an ongoing engagement. So he has some homework that he needs to come back to me with, but basically that's been the focus.
That's good. Does he follow through on his homework?
You better.
Otherwise, no more mentoring. What about you, Daje? Like, what are some of the topics that you guys have discussed?
Well, we've discussed very similar things, basically career advice. I would pepper him with questions about how to get my first role and what things I could do as an aspiring actuary. And he gave me some really solid ones. I know one of the main things was solidifying my goals on what I needed in the earlier parts of my career. I was able to pinpoint the fact that I wanted to be able to pass through my exams quickly, and I wanted to be a part of an organization that allowed me to help achieve that first goal while also developing my skills. He pointed me in the right direction in terms of like going to IABA career fair and being able to land a position with MetLife, which basically accomplished all of that. But the other things we would talk about are just ways to show up in like, what do you call it? Well, he would give me like some of his advice through the virtual world, right? How to still project confidence. He would talk about how even though he wouldn't step foot in the office at the time, he would be dressed head to toe in a suit, shoes and all. He would give me his advice on looking for different opportunities. And one thing that I thought was very unique about the opportunity that that IABA offers is his experience navigating a not so diverse career path as somebody from an African country, and being able to connect with him on not being able to maybe quote scenes from The Office or something like that, and how to navigate that kind of space. And it was nice to meet him, to be able to connect with him on a personal level in that way. Your mentor doesn't have to be like this imposing, super like awe-inspiring actuary or something. They can be a person too.
Yeah, Which helps. I mean, the longer you've built a relationship with a mentor, the more personal it becomes, and the more you become friends, more so than just acquaintances. So it's nice to develop that support and person you can trust. So I have a question for Paul. So Paul, we've talked about the topics that Adrian and Daje have discussed with their mentors and mentees. Now, are there topics that are off limits? So I would imagine that we wouldn't want Daje asking his mentor, hey, can you get me a job at Prudential? So is there guidance in Cronus, and what are some topics that are off limits? And behaviors, not just topics, but behaviors, etc.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Monique. Within Cronus, that specific aspect is not addressed explicitly, but think of it as being in a general business setting. So the language that you use has to be fairly professional. And with regards to the relationship, it is, even though it's a mentor-mentee type connection, we are colleagues that are on the same path, and the mentor genuinely wants to see you succeed. So to the extent that the relationship can stay within those parameters, that's the objective. And if ever it falls out of those parameters, definitely reach out to Morgan or any people on the mentoring committee, myself included, and we'll be sure to handle it appropriately. But essentially, it's a professional setting. We want to see you succeed. Keep it within those parameters. And for the most part, not for the most part, people do that. We seldom get any issues in that respect.
Okay, great. Thanks, Paul. So, and I know we've touched on this as we've had this conversation. Daje, how has having a mentor helped you in your short actuarial career? How has your mentor helped you so far along your career path?
I felt like I was doing a lot of it on my own before having a mentor. From like, I didn't go to an undergraduate program that like they had pretty advanced maths and things like that. I felt I was capable of doing the work, but they didn't have a formalized actuarial program. I didn't know anybody in my family who was an actuary. I think there were 2 people from my school who became actuaries, and that school was founded in the 60s, so it was a lot of people. So it was a pretty solitary journey as I was learning a lot of it. Plus, starting to study for those exams is a pretty grueling process. When I got a mentor, it felt like I had somebody there that could allow me to keep going and make things a little bit easier, and make the self-talk a lot more positive, and by the end of the summer, I didn't even recognize the person at the beginning of that journey. So yeah, I honestly, I couldn't imagine like how different things could have been without that relationship. So thank you.
That's great. That's great to hear. What about you, Adrian? How has having a mentee, and I know you touched on this definitely throughout the conversation, helped you along your career path?
To be honest, I would say it helped me, like, as a position, like being a manager of people and coaching people through their careers. Like, it helped me kind of like get comfortable in terms of what's the right approach, like not leading someone to a path, but showing them the path, and also about being present. So I would say when it comes to coaching individuals and helping them think through things, I found having a mentee and being a mentee at some point in time, it did give me help me develop my way of approaching people in general.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So for those that are considering or are mentors on this call, it's important to know that you are also benefiting from the relationship. It's not just one-sided.
For sure.
I see a question here from Michael. Michael, I'm going to ask for this question in particular, for Daje, connect with Michael after. Maybe you can give him some guidance on how long it took you to prepare for your exam. And maybe, I don't want to have him just answer quickly here, Michael, because it sounds like you might need a little bit more guidance and information there. So I'll have you guys connect, and it's a good way to network, and also maybe have some kind of informal mentor-mentee relationship. See, Daje can be a mentor to Michael too. So I'll let you guys take that offline, and Michael, ask all the questions you have to Daje. And anyone else that can help Michael, please feel free to reach out. All right, so the next question I have, so we have had several people on this call, and we wanted, and they're likely joined the call to learn more about the program. So Adrian, can you give them any advice? What advice would you offer to those that are participating and those that will be watching later, since it's recorded, on why they should sign up to be a mentor through IABA's program?
Now, why, I guess, is, look, the mere fact that you're interested in being a mentor, then I would say, like, to me, that's the first step. And there are typically all these different kind of like barriers in terms of, do I have the time? Do I know enough? Look, I would say, I don't think you should allow those things to stop you from contributing to the profession. So I would say that's number one. Next is, like we mentioned, there's a good team around this mentorship program. There's a good platform, there's good resources. So there's a lot of tools out there that will help grease the wheels, make actually participating a lot easier than you would often think. And look, you may not fully appreciate it, and I appreciate, I mentioned this earlier, but your experience, although to you may not necessarily be interesting, could be impactful for someone else. So I would say, if you have the time and you can commit and you can show up, I would say definitely is something that you should consider doing.
Agreed. Daje, what about you? Any advice that you would give to those that are watching if they wondering if they should sign up to become a mentee?
Yes. If you're considering it, I would, especially if you're earlier on in the profession, I would definitely encourage you to do it. I'm thinking about how nervous I was when I first thought about signing up. And I honestly, if you're feeling that way, you know, you should, those nerves are probably a sign that you should do it, you know. Honestly, you don't know what you don't know. And having a mentor, a second set of eyes there to help guide you along the path, especially for something that has quite a few twists and turns and all these different hurdles and all these different exams and things like that, and many different paths, as Adrian shows you. It's nice to have somebody there who's going to bat for you. So I would definitely encourage signing up, and I would definitely encourage making sure that you're present when you're there, making sure that you always have some sort of questions, and be mindful of their time. Right? You know, it's a pretty demanding profession, and oftentimes the folks that you get to meet are pretty high up and very, very good at their jobs. So you want to make sure that, like, they're not going to make you feel like you're wasting their time, but you want to ensure that they don't. Right? You want to make sure that, like, you treat them how you'd want to be treated when you're in that role. And let's see if I said.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's a nice little benefit that IABA offers. Not you don't necessarily have to be paired with someone from your company. That's an option, I imagine, as long as there's no direct reporting relationship. But this is a good way to, as Daje and Adrian say, to just have somebody else to give you guidance and objectively just have somebody in your corner. And it's a good way to network because you don't know where your career is going to go, what direction, and who knows whom. And so like, it's always good to have lots of connections and lots of relationships. I had one question. I don't know if anybody else does, so I'll ask this. So, and I don't know if Paul or Morgan knows, but how long are the relationships paired for? So I said mine has been going on for over 13 years, maybe over 14 at this point. So he's in it for the long haul, so am I. But it doesn't have to be that way. I don't know. Daje's is fairly new. Adrian, I feel, is fairly new as well. Is there a time period where, you know, the relationship ends, or it just depends on your own match, and if you guys are clicking or if you feel like it's beneficial, you just keep it going?
Yeah, so we definitely seen a number of ways that this has gone. If you are enjoying your mentor or mentee, this connection lasts for 6 months now. Before they were 3-month connections, but we switched it to 6 months. And you can extend your connection if you want to formally, to keep it on the IABA Cronus site. You can just message your admin and we can extend it. Or if you want to, take it off of the platform and continue to, have your connection. I've seen some that have been connected since I started, which was almost 2 years ago. They're still connected and they keep asking me to extend their connection. So it really is dependent on if you're clicking or not. Like you mentioned, Monique, sometimes we see that a mentee might want another mentor, to, broaden their connections and their network. So it's however the connection goes, but you can either, message the admin to extend it on the iaba.cronus.com site, or you can, take it offline and continue the connection as you have, Monique. And you didn't need Cronus, to meet your mentor, and you've been connected for years. So definitely you can stay connected to them for however long. I'm still connected to my mentor, and I think it's been like 5 years. So, yeah.
And maybe if I could just add to that, Monique. So as Morgan has mentioned, there's that formal part, which is 6 months, and then the informal part, which you can either keep within Cronus or take off Cronus. My observation and my personal experience is the relationships do continue much longer. As you mentioned, it transitions from being a mentor-mentee to being colleagues. And so specifically for IABA, and to Morgan's point, we have experimented with the mentorship program. We had the formal part initially 3 months. We found that the sweet spot is 6 months. And also having it as 6 months allows us to rotate people. You will notice if you're signing up for the mentorship program, there may be times where we are unable to pair you immediately with a mentor because we have currently more mentees than mentors. Ideally, we want to quickly pair people over. So we do rely on that turnover to have more people access the service, the service, if I call it that.
Okay, thank you, Paul. We should never be in a situation where we have more mentees than mentors. So we'll talk about that. So as we wrap up, any questions from? So Danielle is saying that, and not sure if it's just me, but there are no slots for meetings till May 22nd. I don't know if Morgan or Paul can address that.
Yes, we are fixing that issue currently. Cronus, somebody brought it to my attention earlier today. So I have messaged Cronus and their support team to fix that bug, but I think that was kind of fairly new. So Daniel, if you want to reach out to me and I can stay in contact with you in order to make sure you know when that has been fixed.
Great. All right, so as we approach the end of the hour, I wanted to ask Adrian and Daje. Adrian, I'll start with you. Anything else that you would like to share that we haven't covered, or any parting words for our audience?
Yeah, so look, mentors volunteer their time. So I guess that's a positive point. Like they want to be there to support you on your career journey. So what I would say is, look, own that relationship, be proactive, and exploit those engagements as much as you can, as much as your relationship would allow it. Because not only do you need to own your mentorship relationship, but you also need to own your career and own that path. So I would say be proactive, and then also come prepared, come into the engagement knowing what you want to get out of it, and having a good understanding as to why you're meeting. And it's not about wasting the mentor's time, but to be honest, you're also wasting your time. So look, come prepared, own the relationship, be proactive. And I think, look, because the mentors are volunteering, look, there's a lot that you could potentially get out of those relationships. So.
Great. All right. Thanks, Adrian. Daje?
I mean, there isn't much that I can add on the mentee side, right? You know, I would just advise folks, if you're feeling like you maybe could benefit from a mentor, definitely do it, but don't half-step it. Make sure you come prepared, make sure you show up and be present, and be there with an open mind, and I'm sure you're going to come out of it learning way more than you went into it. I mean, no man is an island, right? And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how much potential you have when another person is looking at you from their own perspective.
Yeah, and you want to be vulnerable too. You want to, don't put on a show for your mentor. Like, otherwise, it won't be a beneficial relationship. Be authentic. Morgan, Paul, any parting words, any last advice, guidance? I know we're going to send out a survey. I don't know if Morgan has already sent that out, but a survey will be going out to the group. So please fill that out. Give us more information on the experience you've had here today. Morgan and Paul, any last words before we wrap up?
No, I think you've covered it all. Just thank you. Reach out to us. Morgan, myself on the mentoring committee, and the other volunteers are there to support you. Mentoring is really important. It's the accelerant to your career, so thank you all.
Yeah, and Paul mentioned it. Yeah, so I did send out the survey. And I do just want to encourage you all, yes, mentors and mentees, to definitely sign up for the IABA.cronus.com. And I keep saying it so you know where to go. Yes, so definitely go there. I was a mentee myself, and I'm trying to get into the mentor atmosphere, but being a mentee you need that guidance, and I wouldn't even be sitting here with you all today if I didn't have my mentor that I had throughout college. So I just definitely want to, just like I said, everybody has said it already, but it's super important that you sign up and start your journey with becoming an aspiring actuary into a working actuary, a professional. So that's all I had, and I did send that out, the survey, and I'll be sending out a follow-up email tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you all who showed up today. Special thank you to Adrian and Daje for taking the time to join us and share your experiences. And also to Paul and Morgan for coordinating and running this amazing program. I hope you guys all have a great evening, and thank you all for joining us tonight. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.